Hey everybody. Every business, and this is one of the reasons why I love working with small business. Every business is different. It's also one reason why we never have an exclusivity exclusivity in our program, because everyone has their own specialty. One of the greatest things about my guest today is she does things a little bit different than the other bookkeepers we have. I'd like to introduce you to Heather De Jesus. How are you doing?
I'm good, Zach. How are you?
You started Burton's Bookkeeping. Tell me a little bit about it. What was the reasoning behind starting your own bookkeeping company?
I've always been, I've always helped people with finances and things. And I was a teacher and I saw so many like small businesses suffering because they didn't have good bookkeepers, or that they had bookkeepers that were just they didn't care as much about their small business because they were small. And I love working with small businesses and watching them grow. And so that's why I started Burton's Bookkeeping and Taxes.
You mentioned the teaching. There was an aspect of wanting to help out teachers as well when you started this, because as a teacher nowadays, they're not getting the backing that we need to get for them. They have to provide their own supplies and stuff like that, which to me is still, and you and I talked about this when we first met. My son is a teacher over in Japan, and it is completely night and day. It is so much different over there. But you saw with your experience as a teacher, you were like, well, I also want to make a difference for other educators.
Yeah, because as an educator, my husband used to, I drove him crazy because I kept buying things, you know what I mean, for my students because I wanted them to have it. And now with, my own business, I can give to them, you know what I mean? And so they're not spending things out of it. So it's nice to be able to like go on a field trip with the kids or something, or do extracurriculars and help the teachers that I used to work with and other teachers as well. So it's always nice to do that.
Let's go off script a little bit right here. What if you were able to talk to people in the community and say, hey, you know what? If you can do this for a local teacher, it would really help them out. What would that be?
Providing supplies for their students. Just ask them. It's like I was a math teacher and I was begging for pencils. You know what I mean? I can't, literally I had like them on shipment from Amazon coming so that I always had them. Just like ask them like simple things that you think that we don't have them. Pencils, paper, like we have kids that don't have book bags, coats. Things that, and here in North Carolina, it gets cold, and the kids don't have coats. And so it's simple things. Just call your local school. They will be so grateful. You know what I mean? So grateful that you, even a little bit, even if it's $20 worth of stuff, $10, it'll be very well received.
So, in other words, folks, there's a great idea. Okay, this school year is coming to an end. For most areas. I know that there are some schools that go all year long, but school is coming to an end. So let's take in and throughout the country, you know what, let's start getting together and collecting school supplies and dropping them off to a local school, maybe a school that your kids used to go to or something like that, just to try to help them out. And of course, for anybody in Colorado, if you do have a school without coats, or you have a kid that needs some clothing or something, make sure you reach out to us here at Community Pay It Forward, because Community Dare to Care, we do have tons of clothing and shoes and stuff like that. But let's get back to introducing Burton's Bookkeeping. One of the things that you do that are different from other bookkeepers are you do taxes. So you are a true all-encompassing. I don't want to say all in one, but you're an all-encompassing bookkeeping program.
Yeah, and I got very lucky when I opened my bookkeeping business. I had always done individual taxes, But I had, well, I call her my partner in crime because she's in Missouri, but she's taught me so much about corporate taxes and S corps and things. So like I could actually take my bookkeeping clients and do their taxes for them, which isn't an extra cost for them. So that always helps. I mean, because every penny counts when you're running a business, that's
Oh, yeah. Yeah, very much.
Plus, I know their books. So, I mean, I know what deductions they can take and I know what things, and plus those clients I don't do taxes for, I can help them to make sure that their books are ready for taxes, like, because I know what their tax preparer is looking for.
What are some of the things that, and I don't want to say drive you crazy, but I'm going to say drive you crazy, about businesses that, they need to be paying closer attention to because it can save them money? What are some of those things that businesses can really do to help you,
Mhm.
but more importantly, help themselves?
Well, one thing I look at for them to help themselves is to their credit card processors and things like that. There are so many of them, they don't ask for ACH or, you know what I mean? And that can save them so much, like in fees and things that they don't think about. Also, like some of the deductions, like they're like, oh yeah, I bought this subscription, yeah, I use it for business, but they don't think that it's, for business. It is. They have vehicles out there that they're running and they have a AAA in case one of their salesmen's, breaks down on the road and they're like, oh, that's personal. No, it's not. It's not. So just knowing, and that's why I always like to give them a list like of what the deductions for their thing that they can take. And then for me, just trying to make sure that every week or so, you know what I mean? Like I'm sending them and just responding to the ones that we don't know, because in a month, you're not going to know. They're not going to know. I mean, Zach, come on, think about it. I don't know what I bought at Walmart a month ago.
I don't know what I
So,
bought this last weekend, and
right.
we're
So,
recording this on a Tuesday, and I can't
right. So
remember everything that
that's
I
what I'm saying.
bought on, this weekend. So yeah.
So help your bookkeeper by, keeping up when they, weekly and saying, hey, I bought this. I have one client that's so awesome with that. She'll email me, hey, I bought this. Only this amount was business associated, but I got the receipt. You know what I mean? So that helps out so much.
Heather, one of the things that we've done before, and I hate saying this because it's a little bit grandizing, but that's not the purpose of this. You
Mhm.
cannot write off every meal as a business meal, but we once in a while will take, and like I'll walk into McDonald's and I'll see somebody who's, outside, and we'll purchase a meal for them. Can we write those off?
Depending on how you do it and how much it is, you can take it off as charity. And then when you itemize your taxes, you can take that off as charity. So.
Okay. What do you have to do anything special to make that stand out? Do you have to have them like sign a receipt or something like that? Because usually it's just like, I'll buy a number two with
Right. But when you give them cash, it
coffee.
isn't, you know what I mean? Like like
Right.
giving them cash is gonna be more, but like when you're buying a mill, if you're claiming it as, like, and mostly most businesses that aren't S corps that are, that are just sole proprietors, they're doing their individual taxes with their business. So that could be, you know what I mean, part of their itemized deductions as charitable. Just keep the receipts. And some things people forget about is the miles.
Yeah.
If they go and like help, like I have a tax client that goes and helps at the YMCA, she volunteers and she volunteers there once a week. Those miles count too as tax deductions that people don't think of.
What about networking miles?
Yeah, whenever you go to networking, you get to take those off. Keep
So,
track.
yeah.
I get
Uh,
to take it off all the way to Colorado, right? Isn't that where you are? Colorado? No,
Yep,
I'm
yep,
kidding.
yep. So yeah, there you go. You know what? Yeah, you come in and you talk to us. That's going to be one hell of a deduction with gas prices right
But
now.
definitely.
I mean,
Definitely.
it's not the gas prices of a couple of years ago, but thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are so many deductions. And what are some of the things that people think that they can deduct, they try to deduct, and you're like, no.
Mills are a big one. People think that every time they do a mill, some people think that if they give their kids money, like when they're in college, they can take those because it's like part of the business. But you can't do all that either. And then a lot of people do like if they buy their clothing, they think because they, but clothing's only if you have like a uniform, like a specific uniform, like a nurse or, like I have a car salesman that I do taxes for. He has to wear certain shirts and hoodies and things like that. So
what about like a business suit, a suit and tie? Can that, no? Okay.
not
Yeah.
unless you are like a statutory employee and you work for someone else and they tell you you have to wear this suit, this color. But if they say dress attire, no. I know.
Okay. Well, there goes what I was going to do this weekend. No, I,
Well, you
I
don't
need
want to
a
get
new suit jacket
audited.
badly. So, but, yeah. And, how long have you been doing this, Heather? I know that once again, we talked about, you left teaching to do this, but, when did you start,
Well,
Burton's Bookkeeping?
I started Burtons Bookkeeping in February of 2023. But I have done bookkeeping and taxes for years. It just was my side hustle. It wasn't my main thing. And I'm so happy that I finally, took the plunge and did that. So yeah, so I've since full time since February of 2023.
What is it about numbers and numbers with you? You said that you were a math teacher. What is it about numbers that excites you?
They make sense. And well, just like math, and algebra, it's like finding out what the problem, what it is. So one thing with bookkeeping that I love is finding out why the numbers don't match and what's missing and what's not. So same one with taxes. How can we get that bottom line down as low as possible and still stay within the law?
Yet, it, I think it's really funny that a lot of bookkeepers, they just don't want anything to do with taxes.
Yeah.
And um and what why are you stepping out different from them and saying, you know what, we'll do the taxes? Is it easier for you to keep the books when you're doing everything?
Well, it is. It is, but it also helps me to, like, for example, whenever I get a new client, I always get their tax return, whether I'm going to do their taxes or not. So I get to kind of look at what they took off last year and kind of see where they are. And I can say, hey, you're not where you were last year. Did you forget to put something? Did you put on a personal card? Did you? But what I like to me, it's kind of like going to a baseball game and staying for 4 innings and not seeing who wins. You know what I mean? So where I get to do all their bookkeeping for the year, we do their taxes, and then we get to see, how well we did at estimating taxes, how we do it. Plus it helps me prepare them for, how they're going to pay their estimated taxes for the next year. So it kind of helps me to, I don't know, it's like finishing the process.
That is so funny that you bring up that sports analogy. If there's one thing that bugs the hell out of me at a game is when you go with somebody and they want to leave with like 5 minutes left. Well, let's get out of here. Let's get out of
And
the
then a
parking
winning
lot.
touchdown or winning
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. And I'm a hockey fan. 5 minutes, that can be 6 goals.
It
And,
can. Mhm.
so it's like, no, no,
Yeah.
we leave now. Look at all the other people hitting the doors.
I don't
Okay.
care. We'll
We're just
wait.
going
We'll
into
just
more
wait.
chaos. So we'll just walk slower. It's
Well,
fine.
you're right. And I
No.
don't know about you, but I grew up in Ohio, so we always had hockey.
Yeah.
And we always were like, well, I guess once we were of age, it's like, well, I guess we'll have one more beer before,
Yeah.
we just wait on everybody to go, and we'll
Yeah.
just sit there and wait. But yeah,
Yeah.
you don't leave because you never know what happens.
Yeah. We grew up in Kansas, so we only had water when the ice blew into town, and that was about it. So there wasn't a lot of water there, but not until you got to eastern Kansas and then you had a little bit. But where are you at now?
I'm near Charlotte, North Carolina, in a town called Hickory. So
Okay, but you can do this anywhere, right?
most of my clients, I only have like 3 local clients. Everybody else, everywhere from New York to California.
Are the is the bookkeeping different in every state, or is it predominantly the same?
It's predominantly the same. It's the taxes that change, you know what I mean? But the bookkeeping's the same.
What about state taxes? You know that you've got states like Texas and Florida that do
I
not,
love those
yeah.
states. Because they don't have any state tax, no. Yeah, you do have different, that is different because the percentages are different. But for taxes as well as like, so when I prepare their taxes and figure out their estimated, I do have like a little cheat sheet. It kind of like, you put it in and it tells you what state. And then you can tell what the things are. But yeah, every state has a different percentage, different laws. All the nonprofits are different, depending on what paperwork you have to fill out for the state. So,
One of the things that people do not know, a lot of people are unaware of, is everybody has heard the code 501c3, but there are different codes for nonprofits, right?
there are, yeah, and there's a lot of different tax forms too. I mean, a 990 has like 4 different tax forms depending on how you do it. Whether they're taxed interest, whether they're not, whether they're a trust, whether, I mean, it just depends. An HOA and condo have a different form. So they're all different. There's so many different forms.
What about, I don't know how this affects small businesses, but what about places that have employees like share drivers, where the employee themselves is basically, it's up to them to file their own taxes. Uh
The
do they,
1099s,
I'm
like the
sorry.
1099 like the 1099 employees.
Right, right. Um do they are they basically filing as like a small business owner themselves? Is that what it
Yeah,
is?
There's a sole proprietor and they do a Schedule C, basically. So that they can take off, like, for example, Uber drivers.
Hmm.
They take off, so they can take off their gas and their mileage and things like that, whatever, their Uber shirts, because they have to wear certain shirts sometimes. And so yeah, they basically operate like a small business. They just don't have an EIN number.
Okay, do they have to file quarterly, or is it at the end of the year?
Not usually, and it varies. You're supposed to have over a certain amount, but the thing with them, they don't get penalized. Like, for example, with, if I don't do my estimated taxes, I mean, it's not a large penalty, but it's like a small penalty because you didn't pay your quarterly taxes. With them, it's more of they get it at the end of the year, so they don't really know, what I mean? They don't have it. It's not like they're getting quarterly, like with your business and my business. We know what we spent this quarter. They don't, what I mean? They can estimate, I guess,
Yeah.
but they
Is there something that they should be doing to make sure that everything is above board? Do you have any, do you have any secret weapons for them that they can make sure that they are uh protecting themselves against overtaxation?
Well, and I have several clients that are like that. Like I have a lady, for example, she works for her son. She does 1099 work for him, like a virtual assistant, but she doesn't have a business. What I mean? It's not a business. And she calls me like every quarter and she says, "Hey, this is how much I've earned. How much should I pay?" And so those can do, and plus I always try to give those people, especially if I've done their taxes the year before or I'm going to do them. Because I do have some people that's already called me, "You're doing my taxes next year. You know that, right?" And I'm like, "Okay, sure." um, which I think is great. What I mean? That means they heard about me this year and apparently I did a good job somewhere. But I always try to give them a list, like, and I have them specific for each one, what I mean? Like virtual assistants, Uber drivers, salesmen, the insurance salesmen that are like statutory employees, so there's lots of things that they can take off. And I usually have a list of that, for each one.
Uh, are there any businesses that you try to stay away from because the taxation is a little more time consuming, or
S corps tend to be like S corps with, like, for example, they're very interesting because there's a lot, like, for example, I did a construction company and they had several trucks and then you have to do all the depreciation. Those take a lot of time. I don't mind doing those, but I always feel that they really need someone in their state to do those, only because they need to know exactly what the depreciation is. What I mean? Like when they bought the vehicles and things, and someone like a CPA or an EA in their state could do that a lot quicker because they could actually go to the vehicle, find them, do all that. So the ones that have a lot of equipment, I usually try to stay away from. I mean, not because I can't do them, but it's easier to do those things on hand, or the ones that have a lot of inventory, what I mean? And
and
it's not counted.
yeah, and it probably is better for them to be having someone closer
Mhm.
to them.
Like
Uh,
I have a bookkeeper friend who has a liquor store and she's right down the street and she does bookkeeping for them. Okay, I couldn't do that because you have to literally go and scan every month their inventory. You know what I mean? So that's not, that would be very hard. So I try to stay away from companies like that just because it's easier for someone there to do it. But there's so many that are not there's so many good CPAs and EAs and tax preparers in those states that they could do. I just feel that they do a better job.
If anybody's got any questions, how can they get a hold of you? That way they can find out if you are the best choice for them.
Well, I have a website, which is burtonsbookkeeping.com. And then I'm pretty sure they can see it, right? My phone number, my email
Yep.
address. So feel free to, call, text, or email, or look at my website and book an appointment. And and this is something that a lot of people don't say. If you just have a question, I'm not going to charge you for that. So please just call and ask me. You know what I mean? If I can answer it for you, that'd be great. You know what I mean? So some people are like, oh, I'm just starting out, I can't afford anybody. At least ask, you know what I mean? And I have no problem with people calling and asking that. So.
And that's one of the reasons why I think that you are such a great, brand new member of the Community Pay It Forward family, because you are willing to help people. And that's, of course, what we're looking for here in the family. We want to make sure that, we're trying to protect business owners, and we're trying to help out business owners. And our program is really good for newer businesses. The other aspect, of course, is that you came from the teaching, the teaching background, and you understand the trials and tribulations that they have to go through. That is definitely one of the things that we respect and love about you and your heart for teaching. What are some of the other like causes that really touch your heart?
Well, I work with, I wasn't able to give it up. I work with exchange students, through a program called ASSE. And, they pay us a little bit, but it's really not about the pay. It's just, I love meeting, like we had a exchange student last year from Australia. That was so much fun. He was the same age as my son. So great. And then, I have right now a little girl from Japan. And believe me, when you talk about the teaching being different, she's just like, the first month she was here, she was like, I can't believe this place, you know? But like, that's kind of a passion and I love hanging out with those kids and doing those things with them, just, seeing this country from a new, perspective, or a different perspective, and then learning about theirs as well.
That might be something that I want to talk to you about. I got an email the other day about exchange students, and uh if I could afford to pull that off, I mean, if we just got the help with the food and everything, I would love to do that. My wife and I have the aspiration to take in foster children, but right now with us taking care of mom and dad and their poor health, bringing a child in that needs that much care and need, that's a little difficult. So, and we've had a couple of them that have been very problematic, and that's a little.
Well, that's one thing that's nice about this. These kids they don't come over unless they're really good kids. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? They're literally here to experience the culture and try to figure out the difference. And um, I'm just gonna tell you, my son still like he's gonna graduate next year, and we had Seth last year, and he's like, oh, I can't wait to go to Australia. You know what I mean? I want to go to Australia and see Seth. You know what I mean? So they build bonds. And so many of host parents, they end up taking trips over there and seeing their kids. And it's just it's a great experience. So if you could ever do that, you'd enjoy
You
it, believe me.
that's actually really kind of funny because uh Free, my son in Japan, he every time he wants to take, and he's talked to parents and said, hey, you know what? If we can come up with the money when I go home, I'll take your child with me so they can experience it. And he really wants to start that, and bring the kids here to America, bring them to
Mhm.
Colorado and to Kansas, and just give them give them that experience of what America's like.
But
Of course.
make sure you give me his number after this, because we have places all over the country. In Japan, we definitely have one, because that's where they send kids here from. So
Oh, wow. Yeah,
yeah, so
that would.
please let me know. I would love to, because they would love that. That'd be like a field trip. They'd love it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And of course, we joke about it all the time because he goes, yeah, Dad, the only problem is that they've not seen someone as big as you usually. So, you know,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah, my host parent that has the Japanese little girl, she's like this tiny little thing, and he's 6'4". And she
yeah,
was a little intimidated by him when she first
yeah,
saw him, but she's like,
yeah,
he's
it's
just
it is kind of funny because free along with being a teacher, a kindergarten teacher there in Japan with children with special needs, he's also a professional wrestler. So every once in a while he'll go in with like a blackened eye or something like that, and they'll just love him. And every year he'll take, and that's how he wishes me happy birthday. He'll have his entire class
aw.
record a happy birthday,
Mhm.
message to me, and it's really special.
That's so
I
sweet at
love
that
it.
age. I have a 4-year-old and he's just like, he's so sweet. Like if I hurt myself or, I mean, silly stuff. Oh, are you okay? They're so thoughtful and sweet at that age. So,
You know, I have eh, I have a saying that I love my kids, yours not so much. But that's not really true because I love I love trying to help kids. I love the excitement of a kid, with our Cub Club that we're trying to build, Heather, and you and I really need to talk about that. We've created ironically, I've got one here because we're putting together this thing for an event. But we've got our little Cub Club coloring book that I create that, we're trying to bring back the, the, what it is it's just a ID that a kid can carry with them.
mhm.
And it's got some special things in there, because God forbid something happens to your child. We want to make sure that mom and dad are also taking and recording their children,
Mhm.
grabbing that phone, utilizing the camera on the phone, because phones are no longer for telephones, they're for
No, they're
cameras.
not. They're
Yeah.
computers in hands.
Right, but making sure that the parents are recording their kids saying, some of the words that they struggle with. It's not spaghetti, it's scapetti, or, you know, for a child, I'm sorry, it's not Fruit Loops, it's Fruit Loops. They get
Yeah.
excited about this. These are things that we need to make sure that we're recording. So again, God forbid your child comes up missing, we recognize sounds a lot more than we recognize children's pictures. And if that's something that we can put with an Amber Alert, because an Amber Alert, they say watch out for a yellow Toyota. That's the only damn car you see that day.
Right, exactly. You see a bunch of them.
So, and who has time to sit there and,
Mhm.
if you're driving properly, who has time to look for a license plate? So I mean, there's so much that we can do. And yeah, the Cub Club is something that's very, very important to me. And it's just because, I'm sick and tired of seeing kids get left behind and kids get hurt. So
Mhm.
we need to support children all over the world. And that's why I love this idea of doing this. We're thinking about becoming a home for young men who come to Greeley to play hockey,
Mhm.
being a family for them to stay with us for a while as well. But
Well, and
um,
it's great. We have my husband's Dominican, which is where the De Jesus comes from. And we have a small little baseball team here. And there's a lot of Dominicans that come and he's always inviting them to like, our house or whatever, just for like a little taste of home. So that's always nice too. So
it is,
they'll love that.
and it's great. Look, we as adults, we hear a lot. Well, these kids today, they don't. Okay,
Not
stop.
all of them.
What
Not all
what
of
have you
them.
done to help these
Mhm.
kids? Because you didn't grow up knowing everything.
No.
You know, you may think you did. I
Well, we
wish,
thought we did. We thought we
yeah,
did.
I wish I knew half as much as I knew when I was 16 years old because I knew everything.
Mhm.
But hell, I wish I knew a quarter of what I knew when I was 16. But
Yeah.
but the thing is that if we need to mentor these kids instead of just sitting there taking and you know just giving up on them. And I think that what you're doing is wonderful. I absolutely appreciate it. And again, I think that you joining our family, I think it's a wonderful fit because there's that passion, there's that compassion, and there's that love for helping others. Uh,
To
you
have
know,
that in order
yeah,
to thrive in this world. That's what makes us, that's what makes people different from others. You know, you can, yeah, you can get up and have a terrible day, or you can make someone's day. So you decide.
that's and it doesn't take an act of Congress to do it. Thank God it would never happen if it took an act of Congress. But yeah, well, we're not getting political here. But Heather, is there anything else that you would like to let everybody know?
No, I think you've covered it all. So I just really appreciate the time with getting to the community and, you know, just getting to know people.
Well, we are thrilled to have you as a sister in giving and being part of the family. You can get a hold of Heather at 980-858-3033. That's 980-858-3033. It's so nice having it above your head there. I can read it right from there.
I
Usually I gotta
learned that from my business coach. She
yeah.
said, you don't have your name or your number, because I have the B squared left over from like my algebra days, because I just couldn't not do that. And she's like, put your number on there, put your email. So I
Yeah.
have to thank her for that. So,
It actually really is because, like I said, usually I have to sit here and I have to do this, and after my accident, my palsy in my eye, I can read with my eye open, but my
uh-huh.
eye automatically shuts. So I got to sit there and try to focus on what I write. And for
Mm,
some reason, I'm trying to reteach myself cursive writing,
no.
which means that it's just god awful sloppy. But you can also reach her at her email address, which is Heather at burtonsbookkeeping.com. And make sure you put that S on the end. It's not Burton, it's
Yes, yes.
burtonsbookkeeping.com. Visit her website at www.burtonsbookkeeping.com, or you can always go in and punch in the word Heather, bookkeeping, taxes, whatever, at communitypayitforward.us. Her name will pop up. And please, like she said, if you have any questions, ask. She's not going to charge you. There's no commitment needed. This is, this is trying to help you as a business owner, you as an individual. If you have questions on how to make things easier, just call her 980-858-3033. Ours is 970. So that there for a
You
second,
want to
I
keep
almost
saying,
had, yeah, I almost had to bite my tongue there. I was like 98880. So 980-858-3033. Heather, I want to thank you very much again. Welcome to the family. And I really cannot wait. I'm looking forward to doing a lot more work with you.
thank you so much. It's been great to be here.
All right.